Hello and welcome back everyone to Python Basic. So for my previous video, I talked about the Python Basic variables and the Python Basic conditional statement. So now for this video, I will talk about the Python function statement. So what is a function? Well, a function is basically a way that programmer use to avoid repeating the same code over and over again. So let's look at an example. So let's say you want to create a file that store username and you want to store the username in a list, for example. So let's create a file first. Let's name it username.py and I will create a variable, a list variable with the name username. And to create a list variable, like I show you before, just put the square bracket here. Okay, and inside the square bracket represent the amount of variables. So now we have nothing, not even the index 0. So if we want to put, for example, 5 element into it, just simply separate it with a comma. So I will create a 5 empty string. Okay, and this is a pretty slow way to do it. A fast way to do it is just simply add an empty variable into the list and multiply it by the amount you want. So I'll just multiply it by 5 because we don't really need a lot of username. Okay, let's print and try to run it. Print, save, and run. Let me clear this first. Okay, so Python username.py. And as you can see, we have here 5 empty string. Okay, so let's try to put something into it. I'll put username index number 0. And so if you want the user to input their username by themselves, we need to use another built-in function called the input function. So to call the input function, just basically type input and then the bracket. And this will prompt the user to enter an input into this variable. So when the user input anything, the input will be stored into the username index 0. And another thing about input is that you can give instruction to the user. So for example, in here I can write enter username so that the user will know that, oh, so they're supposed to enter the username and stuff. Okay, so let's run and try, save and try to run it. And as you can see, the program is asking me to enter username. So I'll just enter bamboozle. And as you can see, bamboozle is the first variable, the index 0 of the 5 element. Okay, so it works. Let's try to add 2 more user. Let's just copy and paste it and change the index. Okay, let's try and save and run. Okay, username number 1, let's just go with AA, BB, and CC. And as you can see, the AA is stored in index 0, and BB in index 1, and CC in index 2. And the rest is empty. So now our program works. But the problem is with this code is that if you made a mistake, like in this 3 line here, for example, if you accidentally put import instead of input, then the program won't run. Let's try to do it. It will give an error, as you can see, because it doesn't understand what this import is. And so, for example, if you have like 100 more of these, it will be difficult to change all the R into a T. So this is where function comes in. You can use a function to just write one code, and it will be able, when you change the element inside the code, everything else will change. So let's look at an example. So I will delete the other 2 input and let's create a function. So to create a function, just in Python, you just simply type def and then the function name. So I want to store name, so let's just give the function store name. Okay, and you need to put a bracket here, empty or not empty. I will explain that later. So just now put a bracket after the name and a colon to represent the end of the line. Okay, and this is indented, which means that any indented line will be a part of the function. Okay, so let's write let's just copy this code here. Okay, so now let's make it cleaner and try to run it. Save and run. Oh, I'll close it. Okay, so now I will run this file, Python username.py. And what's happening? Why is it not asking me for the input? And it just simply print out the username, the empty list. So what's happening? Well, in Python or any other language, when you define a function, the program will know that this is a function and it will skip anything that is a part of the function. So this is indented, which means that it is a part of the function. So when Python run, it will only run this first line and then go to the third line, and it see that this is a function, so it will skip this and the body of the function and just simply go to line number 6, which is the print username here, and print out an empty string. So to fix this, just simply call the string out. Just to call the string, just simply type the string name with the bracket. So we have the string name store name and the bracket here. So let's try to run it. And as you can see, it works. And yes, it works like before. So let's try to add 2 more. So we want 3 user. Let's try to add 2 more. Okay, save and run. And let's say user AA, BB, and CC. But what's this? Why is it only storing in the first index? Well, it's because when it runs the function, it does not change the index right here. So the username index number 0 will still input into the username index number 0. It does not change into number 1 or number 2. So to fix this, another function of function is that it can take variable from the outside into the function. So for example, you can, in the bracket here, you can add variables like, let's say we want an ID, for example, and you can add multiple variable like ID and I don't know, something else like another variable, but we don't really need a lot. We only need the ID, so I'll remove the other. And so let me change this 0 into an ID also. Okay, so but how do we add the ID into the function? Well, you can do that by just simply changing the adding it into the bracket. So we want an ID 0, just type 0. If you want 1, just add 1. So our list start from 0, so I'll add the index 0 into it. And this one 1 and this one 2. Okay, so let's try and run it. And it is asking for the username, AA, BB, and CC. And as you can see, it works properly now. So this is the basic of the function. As you can see, we remove the, and if we, like for example, if we want to change this one into something else like enter name, and when we save it and run, it will say enter name instead of enter username like before for all the line. So that's why it is better to just use a function instead of repeating the same code over and over again. So now this is the basic of function. You can store anything in the in the bracket, by the way, not just number. You can store like string. Okay, let me just show you an example right now. So let's change the username. Let's just remove everything and so just we now just have only a function and a print statement. I mean a function calling statement. And inside the bracket of the call we have a string. Let's make it to let's change it to something that makes sense. So let's say bamboozle. And in the function let's print ID. Okay, let's save and run. Let's clear this out first. It's pretty messy. Okay, and now let's save and run. And as you can see, it print out bamboozle. And this you can also change this name. It's not necessary that you need to use the name ID or anything. You can just add anything random if you want to. It does not really matter, but try to use something that actually makes sense, like ID or name or something like that. Okay, let's just to prove the point, let's put a random variable name in here and try to run it. And it still works just fine. And if you want to add more information like hello and this, okay, let's wait, forgot this. Okay, and let's run it. And as you can see, it print out here, hello bamboozle. So that's the basic of function. And for my next video, I will talk about the loop.